Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're looking at a piece called Monster Celebrity from April 2024.
Right.
And it's got some really fascinating angles. Covers things like superstition, the whole celebrity culture machine.
And even, what movies you like might say something about your politics, which is kind of wild.
Exactly. So the goal for us today is to unpack some of that. Like, what's really driving our fascination with certain public figures?
How does that fascination actually work, especially when it comes to politics? What are the mechanics behind it?
Okay, so let's dive in. The first point that jumped out was about superstition and fear.
Mm-hmm. The author brings in Carolyn Mace.
Right, and Mace has this analogy.
Yeah.
She says superstition is almost like being possessed. It stops people speaking up, feeling like they have any power.
Yeah, and she links that specifically, the source mentions, to Republicans maybe feeling unable to challenge someone like Trump purely out of fear.
Now, we're just relaying the source's point here, but it does make you think about group dynamics generally, doesn't it? How fear can sort of paralyze things.
Definitely. That idea of fear shutting down individual action within a group. And, flowing from that sort of emotional intensity is the next point about just being exhausted by scandals.
Oh, yeah. The author mentions feeling personally like punished, just remembering past presidential stuff.
And I think, a lot of people listening might relate to that, just feeling completely overloaded by constant negative news cycles about figures in the public eye.
Information overload, definitely.
Yeah.
Which maybe ties into this bigger concept the piece introduces. Celebrity systems theory.
That's the one. It sounds complex, but the core idea is about this feedback loop between the celebrity's psychological state and the follower's psychological state. And the suggestion is both can get kind of trapped in this dynamic.
Trapped how? Like they feed off each other.
Exactly. It's compared to why we might watch, say, horror movies or disaster flicks or get really, really invested in sports rivalries, that intense emotional pull.
So a celebrity's actions trigger follower reactions.
And those reactions then influence the celebrity's next move, and it just keeps cycling, getting more intense. It taps into something quite primal, maybe?
The piece then contrasts presidents who didn't seem to fit this model. Like Jimmy Carter is mentioned as an example.
Right, seen as maybe less of a spectacle. And the author sort of posits that the shift to someone like Reagan, who was obviously very charismatic, might have come from a fear of boredom.
Like wanting to escape a boring movie.
That's the analogy used, yeah. Escaping Carter's perceived boring movie. Even Clinton is framed in this way, but maybe more as a drama series than a potential disaster movie, which is how Trump is sometimes implicitly framed in these discussions.
So is the idea that maybe we as a public subconsciously want a certain level of drama or narrative from our leaders? We don't actually want boring.
It certainly raises that question. Are we looking for a compelling story, even in our politics? Maybe periods that feel too quiet, too uneventful, make us uneasy on some level.
And then there's that link to film preferences. That was surprising.
It really was. The author mentions figuring out someone's political leanings just based on their taste in movies.
Which sounds a bit simplistic maybe, but...
But then the connection is made to algorithms, how platforms are constantly trying to figure out these very preferences or deep-seated inclinations, maybe.
And then feeding that back to us, which loops right back to that celebrity systems idea, potentially just reinforcing the bubbles we're already in.
Precisely. It suggests our entertainment choices might actually reveal quite a bit about our underlying worldview, and these algorithms just amplify it. The piece even suggests adding this concept to Donella Meadows' classic book, Thinking in Systems.
Wow. Okay, so wrapping up, we've touched on how fear, like that superstition idea, can grip us.
And the sheer exhaustion that comes from the constant exposure to scandals.
Then there's that intense feedback loop of the celebrity system, especially in politics, where everyone feels kind of trapped.
And finally, the slightly unsettling idea that even our movie choices might reflect and maybe reinforce our political leanings through these algorithmic loops.
It shows how interconnected these things are: psychology, media, politics.
Absolutely. Understanding these dynamics, even just being aware of them, can give you a different lens on why things unfold the way they do, both for individuals and society.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Consider the public figures who grab your attention right now. Forget politics for a second. Just who fascinates you. What kind of movie? A drama? A thriller? A comedy? Maybe something else do they seem to represent to you? And, what might that tell you about your own perspective? Or maybe even, as the piece suggests, your own fears?
Something to chew on.
Definitely. Thanks for diving deep with us today.